Here. It looks like Facebook changed their live producer, so hopefully everything looks good. Hopefully I'm live. Oh, okay, there we go. Hello, hello. It seems as though I was just talking for like 10 seconds fully, and it seems that it wasn't working. But now it seems it's live. It looks like Facebook has actually made some changes to the live producer, and I didn't quite realize that I was talking at nothing for a minute there. But now we're going, and hopefully everything is a-okay. Anyways, hello, hello, welcome. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy to have all of you here with me on this amazing journey. If you are new and this is your very first live, I've been doing this incredible series based on emotions or feelings, and we have covered so many. This is my seventh installment talking all about emotions. And to be honest with you, I feel like we might be reaching the end. This particular topic feels like a really natural place to end, mostly because I feel like in working with me through my Purposeful Insight program, this is really the place where I want to get you to. You know, last week we talked about courage. Today we're talking about acceptance, and it just is feeling in my gut that this is a natural place to end this particular series. I might do one more, who knows? I might surprise you. We will find out on Monday, but this is really where the journey takes you to. This is where, you know, we've built up your foundation. We've transmuted you from shame all the way now to acceptance, and from here, it's really up to you to take everything that you've learned, all of this rich information, and begin integrating it and allowing it to unfold for yourself, whereas you begin to feel confident in making new opportunities for yourself, embracing the possibilities, and, you know, building a new foundation of what you want your life to look like. So we'll see. I don't know. You never know. But I will let you know more about that on Monday when I announce the new topic. But with that said, we're going to dive right into talking about acceptance today. As I made mention, we started at shame. And what we're really doing in talking about these emotions is also diving into their vibrational output or their frequency. We started with shame, which is a very low vibrational, dense kind of emotion. Today we're at acceptance. And as I had said, shame is an output of 20. Imagine like 20 volts, whereas acceptance, we're here at 350. So we are vibing high. Our vibration is increasing. The confidence is increasing. The willingness to forge a life for yourself is here. So I've been excited these last couple of weeks because we're really diving into what kind of transpires after you go through the therapeutic journey and you get to this point of courage and acceptance. So with that said, we're going to dive in. And if you're here live, please, please, please say hi. I would love to say hi to you. I don't know that I could see your comments, so okay. If you have any questions, please leave them below this video and I will certainly answer it for you. So, like I said, we are going on about acceptance today. So why are you here? What brings you to this incredible live today? And one of the first things that came to mind as I was determining why you might attend is that you're beginning to realize at this point that true happiness is within you. It cannot be found by anybody else. It cannot be determined by anybody else. True happiness lies within. And I know that's kind of a cliche thing to say because I think we all have an awareness that happiness comes from within, but at the point of acceptance, you really and truly know in your gut, in your body, that happiness is driven by you. So this might be one of the reasons that you're joining us, because there's multiple of us, more than one of me. Why you might be joining me today is because you realize that happiness is within you. You might be at the point now where you realize that life is kind of like a puzzle, right? And a lot of times when you're living life, when you're going through life, when you're experiencing things, when you come upon challenges, these are like the little pieces. Like imagine them like all the little pieces of the puzzle. But when you come to a place of acceptance, you stop looking at the individual pieces and you can start to see the full picture coming together. You can start to see the results of all your hard work, all of the bigger picture coming together, as opposed to looking at the independent pieces. And that's what I love so much about acceptance, is that you can see things as they are, as opposed to like the small little pieces, right? If you're at the point now where you are done with conforming to the agenda of others, of society, of other people, and you're ready to build a life for yourself, this is very indicative that you could be coming into this place of acceptance. And if there's a shift that's begun to happen to you, especially if you've been watching all these lives and you started way back 7 weeks ago, that blows my mind to even say that. And now you're here and you're no longer wanting to or willing to focus on problems. You want to start focusing on solutions. This is another sign of true acceptance, because until you reach courage and acceptance, you're really looking to focus more on problems, and you become kind of rooted in them, and you become sporadic in what all the problems are. And at this point, you really start looking and seeking solutions. So hopefully this particular live will really validate that experience for you. If you're no longer willing to live a life that's rooted in judgment, in conflict, and you have a greater desire and respect for humanity, for those around you, and you're really into equality, that is a true sign of acceptance as well too. And finally, and here's a big one, you've reached acceptance if you recognize that everyone is entitled to their own opinion, that we might not agree collectively as a society, as individuals, we might not agree with one another, especially right now with the climate and the way the world is at this moment. We don't all have to agree. We don't all have to have the same opinion. And part of acceptance is understanding that we might not ever all agree, but it's okay. We are each entitled to our own opinion. It's whether or not you attach yourself and feel as though you need to defend your position, that you're not quite at acceptance yet. So let's talk about the definition of acceptance. And I struggled with this a little bit in finding a definition that was aligned with my own personal definition and how I look at acceptance of just kind of anything in general, of situations, of our behavior, of other people. So this one I struggled with. So I only have one definition for you today, and I'm not 100% satisfied with it, but that's okay. That's okay. I'm going to read to you the definition of acceptance. So this is the closest I could find that is really aligned with how I feel it is. Perceiving reality as it is right now, what people are, rather than what you want them to be. Acknowledging what the present and what is, which again, the verbiage of some of these definitions, I'm like, this isn't how I would put it, but that's okay. I'm relinquishing control. Anyways, I wanted to make mention that, as far as I'm concerned, acceptance is really a conscious choice. It is a willingness to release all resistance to whatever is coming up for you. And this can be very, very difficult. And as we go through kind of this live and we talk about this more, probably some of you will be, thinking to yourself, wait, how am I supposed to not be resistant? How am I supposed to accept this, and that? But it is a conscious choice. And whatever resistance is coming up for you, acceptance is the act of saying, okay, I recognize this is challenging. I recognize that I'm having some feelings about this, but I'm choosing to accept things as they are, and know that there is only so much that is within my personal control, that I have the ability to influence. And when you begin to shift into this state of mind, and you come away from resistance and you start to come into acceptance, you begin to make the most of your current reality. You begin to see things differently. Your perception begins to shift. And this doesn't necessarily mean that you approve of people's behavior, you approve of situations. I'm not saying that we simply have to accept behavior from other people, but it's up to you whether or not you try and influence that behavior of other people, and whether or not your efforts are a good use of your energy. We don't want to force things, okay? We don't want to force things into happening and force life into happening. We want to come into a place of flow, and I'm going to explain that a little bit later. And what I do want to say, until you reach kind of this point of acceptance in your emotional journey, your first impulse and a sign that you're not quite at acceptance is that when something happens, you're resistant. You're feeling like the victim. There's still those kind of like victim mentality feelings, and that's when you're not quite there yet. And that's okay. You really have to meet yourself exactly where you're at. And if you're still feeling really resistant, if resistance is continuously coming up from you and you're not quite ready for acceptance, that's okay. Be perfectly fine with where you are today, because things can change and shift very quickly. And that begins with accepting what the current state of affairs is. And that includes within your own self. So yeah, I always get ahead of myself talking. But acceptance truly requires you to breathe into experiences, to lean into discomfort, to be okay and be with things that are challenging. You don't have to like it, you don't have to feel comfortable with it, but it's about breathing into it and recognizing that sometimes, even with challenges or obstacles in life, there are lessons to be learned. There is good and positivity that can come with it if you breathe into it, if you lean into it, if you let go and strip back and move into a place of acceptance. And truly, by changing your attitude towards acceptance, and I know that might sound a little harsh. I sound like a parent. You better change your attitude, but I don't mean it this way, because truly, when you are able to look at acceptance differently, you begin shifting your perception of the world and your circumstances. You begin to look at things a little bit different. As I said before, instead of looking at the individual pieces of your puzzle, you can see how it fits into the bigger picture. And that's truly what acceptance means. And I wanted to give a really relevant example. Not necessarily for me, but this is kind of what I was thinking about in being present and being accepting of things. So I want you to picture you're a bride and you've planned this magical outdoor wedding that's incredible, and you want your pictures outside, and you want nothing more than to have this amazing nature-filled experience with perfect sunshine and perfect weather, and the storm clouds start rolling in on that day, and you just go into a tailspin. You start feeling upset, your anxiety starts going, and you can't make a decision. Do I move it inside? Do I move it? I don't really have a plan B. What do I do? Why can't the sun just shine? Why does this have to happen to me? Why does it have to rain on my wedding day? I'm so unlucky. This is terrible. And you spend so much time thinking about the weather, which is something really and truly you can't control, that you end up missing out on the beauty of the day. You end up missing out on things like the experiences with your bridesmaid, the experience of getting ready, because you're so riddled with anxiety about something you simply cannot control, namely the weather. Now imagine if you're that bride and you leaned into it and you said, you know what, I can't control what happens. Let's move everything inside. Let's enjoy this day for what it is. Let's really be present, because truly, I have to accept that I have no control over this. Imagine what kind of a different day that could be. So that's kind of like a really relevant example and a good way to conceptualize for you what we're talking about with acceptance. Because if you get wrapped up in all the things that are outside of your control, you end up missing out on a lot of the good that's surrounding you, because you're choosing consciously to focus on that which is outside your control. Remember, the only thing that is within your control is your own behavior, your own reactions, your own way of dealing with things, right? And truly, acceptance is about having inner trust. It is about having inner trust. It's all encompassing. It's knowing that no matter what comes your way, even if you accept something that is outside your control that you don't really agree with, at the end of the day, even if that particular challenge unfolds in a way that you didn't quite expect, you have the ability to handle what comes your way. And I keep driving this point home. You can do hard things. No matter what, you can do hard things. So at the end of the day, if acceptance means, okay, maybe things will roll out differently, it's okay, because you know you have that inner strength to navigate it. And ultimately, as I said before, acceptance is about relinquishing control, having an innate awareness that it is within your power to control your own behavior, reactions, and actions. And I keep driving that point home because I feel like a lot of people forget that the only thing that you have control over is you. That's it. You can't control your sister, your mother, your brother. You can't control the weather. You can't control what people do. What you can control is you. And part of acceptance is relinquishing control of anything else, which is very, very hard to do. I know, I get it, I understand it. You're probably like, please, I can't let go of control. And you might be at the point now where you identify as a controlling person. That's just my behavior. That's who I am. And you've labeled yourself as somebody that wants to control every last detail. But when it might just be a signal that you're not quite ready to move into acceptance yet, that there's some inner work to do in determining why you feel like you need to have control over everything. Because ultimately, there's a reason that's happening, and there could be a multitude or a variety of reasons that's happening, and it's up to you to really uncover and detect and deduce what's going on there and address it at the root. But I thought before we moved on, I might go ahead and just share a quote from Eckhart Tolle, whose name I can never really say. I don't really know how to say it. It could be Eckhart Tolle. Who knows? Anyways, I found a quote of his and I thought it was really apropos, so I'll go ahead and share it with you now. It is, accept, then act. Whatever the present moment contains, accept it as if you had chosen it. This will miraculously transform your whole life. So that is a great tip, actually. Thank you, Eckhart Tolle. Whatever the present moment contains, accept it as if you had chosen it. And that's another really great way to begin moving into acceptance. So if challenges come up, you almost want to say, okay, in order for me to accept it, I have to behave like I've chosen it. And only then can I breathe through it. Only then can I determine if fighting against this is something that is a good use of my energy, or if letting go is the best course of action. So I really like that one, and I wanted to share it with you. Anyways, let's talk a little bit about some of the benefits of acceptance, because I think that's important to notate. So let's get a move on with that. Benefits of acceptance: less resistance. And we had talked about that earlier. When you're in a state of acceptance, you have little resistance to what is coming your way. You have an ability to roll with the punches. It doesn't mean you have to like it. It doesn't mean that it might not be hurtful or challenging, but you have the ability to manage and go through what is coming your way. Another benefit is that life begins to flow more naturally and organically. And for some of you, that might be really difficult to imagine. It might be hard for you to envision life being in a state of flow where things kind of get a little bit easier. But part of entering that flow state is having this acceptance piece, or this ability to let go of things that are not within your control. And when you can do that, you can enter into the flow state. Not to mention you're vibing high, your vibration is higher, your output is higher. So what you're attracting into your being, what you're attracting into your life, is going to match that. So things are going to seem automatically more positive because you're going to attract more positivity in your life if you have that higher vibrational output. Another great benefit is that solutions begin to present themselves when you're not looking at everything like a problem, like something that's out to get you, like you're the victim of something, and you start actively seeking out solutions for yourself, being solutions focused as opposed to problems focused. That's a mouthful. When you live your life that way, looking for solutions, negative thinking tends to minimize, because when you're being resistant to things, when you're having difficulties accepting things for what they are, negativity tends to come up more frequently because you're rooting yourself in problems as opposed to finding solutions for yourself. So acceptance can really support you in having a more positive mind frame, a more positive mindset. Holy cannoli, I'm tripping up over my words today, but that's okay. You guys know that's who I am. People are naturally more open and supportive of you. We've talked about this as we've gone through this journey, that as your energetic frequency increases, you become a more positive person, your outlook changes, you become more open, your aura, your frequency around you becomes more open. People are more willing to be a part of your inner circle. They want to be around you. They want to be a part of your life. They are really open and supportive of you because they can see that you've done all this tremendous work on yourself and you're coming from this place of acceptance. So that's a really amazing benefit of acceptance. That alone right there is just people are more open and supportive of you in general. Another great benefit is that you achieve your goals faster. You are empowered and you recognize that every challenge is an opportunity to grow and develop. When we look at challenges and we accept challenges and we accept obstacles and try and learn and grow from them, we naturally are able to reach our goals faster because we see the challenge, we see the opportunity, we're able to find the solution, relinquishing control of what is not in our control, and you move towards your goals at a much faster rate. It's really incredible how that begins to happen. And I know personally that happened to me, and that's happening for so many of my clients right now as we speak. It's a really, really beautiful thing that begins to unfold. Whew, I'm choking out like a frog in my throat. You start saying yes to life. Whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, you start saying yes, even when things seem less than optimal. You start saying yes more often as you step into acceptance, and you realize that positive outcomes can still come from challenging situations. So even if something seems like an obstacle, even if, let's say, you go for a job and you don't quite have all the qualifications, but you know full well in your heart and soul you can do that job, you just know that going into that job interview, it doesn't stop you. It doesn't stop you from going for the job. You still say yes because you know as soon as you get in that chair, as soon as you speak to that interviewer, you can show other ways that you're ready for this position. It doesn't, even though you don't meet all the qualifications specifically, you can go in there and you can show them exactly why you're the perfect candidate. You begin to say yes more. And again, that goes hand in hand with your goals coming to fruition faster because you're saying yes and viewing obstacles as moments to conquer, move through, and grow from. And finally, as I said, throughout this whole thing, you have an overall heightened energy and willingness to enjoy life and all that it offers to you. And I know, as caveat, that's literally the next thing I wrote. I love a caveat, but I know this is going to be difficult, but it is not impossible. There is light at the end of the tunnel. And if you're in a place where you're not quite at acceptance, I promise you, you can get there. I promise you. I've seen it time and time again. I've seen people pull themselves out of the depths of despair and move into a place of courage and acceptance. And it's truly mind-blowing. So if you feel as though you can't do it, if you're feeling like that's impossible for me, I want you to know it's not impossible, but it does take work. It does take conscious effort on your part. But yes, I have a second caveat, it would seem. I want you to also be aware of the fact that I'm not for 1 second suggesting that acceptance is the same as tolerance. They do not equal each other. It doesn't mean that you have to loosen your boundaries and accept the behavior of other people. If people are rubbing you the wrong way, if they are saying things that are hurtful to you, to your family members, to other people around you, you can choose to stand up for what is right, or you can choose to walk away. That is entirely up to you. But is it wise to get in a frivolous argument that's going to go nowhere with someone that's not going to understand what you're trying to say? No. But it doesn't mean you have to tolerate poor behavior. It's just you have to accept, okay, this is the way they are choosing to behave. This is on them. This is not on me. It's not a reflection of me. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to choose to either educate them, or I'm going to choose to remove myself from the situation because I don't want anything to do with it, right? So you don't have to tolerate it, but you do have to accept that that's the way they're choosing to behave. That's the way they're choosing to live their life. And there's only so much influence you can have on the other person. So yes. I thought I should probably clear the air on that. So let's talk about how you can become one with acceptance, which is how I entitled this. And the first point being out of all of this, and I'm sure you're getting this at this point, is that it starts with you. It has to start with you. You have to embrace, in a lot of ways, the idea that what will be, will be. Que sera, sera, whatever will be, will be. And now if that's in your head for the rest of the day, you're welcome. But you need to understand that it's up to you. You have to change the way you're thinking about other people's behavior, and remember that you determine whether or not you move from a place of acceptance. You determine that. It's not up to anybody else. It's not anything anyone can influence you in. It's something that you have to be willing to step into. Now, all that to say, if you're working with a coach, a therapist, a counselor, they can support you in getting to a place of acceptance, but ultimately it boils down to your own willingness to step into that place and embody acceptance. Number 2, recognizing the opposite of acceptance is resistance. So begin taking stock of what you're resistant to. Are you resistant to change? Are you resistant to failure? Are you resistant to, the opinions of other people? What is it you're resistant to? Because if you can understand what you're resistant to, you can kind of get to the bottom of why that might be and what's going on underneath the surface internally and what work still needs to be done. So if you can understand that, you can then move into acceptance a little bit easier. And keep in mind too, resistance is often rooted in the ego mind, right? The ego mind wants to maintain status quo. I think I've told you this 9,000 times, probably in every single live I've ever done, but the ego mind wants to keep you safe. It wants to keep you right where you are. It wants to keep you stagnant because that's what it's familiar with. That's what's safe to the ego, right? So the second you begin to shift out of resistance and into acceptance, the ego is going to be like putting the sirens on, like alert, alert. But once you know that resistance equals ego and acceptance equals heart-centered decision, it's an awareness piece. So you can start to move into that place easier. I think I said that before, but it's neither here nor there. Woo, it just got dark. Anyways. Point number 3, acceptance is simpler than forcing and fighting. Think about it. If you can simply accept people for who they are, situations for what they are, and recognize you only have so much influence in that particular moment, it's a lot easier than using your energy to force something into play or to fight somebody on something that's a losing battle, right? And that's why acceptance is such a higher vibrational output, because you're better equipped to drive change and personal transformation when you have a willingness to utilize your energy for acceptance as opposed to negativity and fight. And I mean, I was definitely a person that was rooted in negativity and defensiveness and feeling like I had to defend to the world everything I was doing, every decision I made, et cetera, et cetera. But when I came to this place of acceptance, it was so much easier. Life was so much easier. I could say, okay, that's on them. The situation's on them. how do I choose to react? What do I choose to do? This is them. This isn't me. This isn't my choice. I choose not to fight. I choose flow. And that leads me right into the fourth point, which is finding flow. And remember, you always have the choice to go with the flow of life. Even in times of great difficulty, you have the ability to choose flow and acceptance, even though it might feel uncomfortable and it might take a lot of practice. You have the choice. And if you think about it like a current, think about that. It's much easier to go with the current. You know, you're going to hit rocks along the way. You're probably going to get your clothes stuck. You're probably going to touch your seaweed with your toe, but it's far easier to go with the current than it is to go against the current. So letting things go is a huge part of finding flow and ultimately finding acceptance. Number 5 is becoming adaptable. Part of what it means to find flow is becoming more flexible as you're navigating your day-to-day life. As you move into this amazing place of acceptance, it becomes easier to become adaptive, and adaptivity is an incredible strength to have. And in all honesty, as you accept people and situations for what they are and work only to control what is within your control, meaning your behavior and reactions, you'll find it becomes easier to adapt, to achieve flow, because though it might not seem like it, you're actually happier and healthier and more positive when you're in this place of acceptance, which means you become more easily adaptable. You become like a chameleon. You're like, okay, well, that's you, that's not me, okay, and you let things go and you become more flexible. It's a really cool kind of thing that begins to happen with acceptance. And as I said, I can speak to it myself personally, and I've seen it within my clients, so I know this is a thing. And number 6, remember, my dear friend, you're not going to like everything. Acceptance does not mean you accept everything, all the behavior of others or certain situations. You don't have to like it. You don't have to agree with it, but you come to a place of wisdom at this point whereby you are gearing your personal strategies and dealing with life towards what is within your control. And some battles are going to be worth your energetic output. If you're somebody that is really passionate about social justice, some of those fights are going to be worth it. Some of those fights are going to be worth your energy, your energetic output, and your fight. But acceptance is a knowing, a wisdom of when to fight and when to flow. Which one is better for you? Which one is going to yield you personally the best and most positive result for yourself? So keep in mind, you're not going to like it. There's, sometimes, and even my own personal experience, I have to accept the behavior of other people and be like, okay, that's who they are. And sometimes I will step up and I will say something and I will make my opinion clear, but it always comes from a place of love and a place of education, as opposed to this need to be defensive or get in the ring with somebody, because dumping fuel on any fire just makes the fire bigger. It doesn't help put it out. So sometimes just choosing your strategy when dealing with people, especially as it relates to their behavior, you just have to be a little bit mindful about what is worth your energy and what is going to yield the best possible outcome for you. And finally, remember that acceptance is a muscle. The beach is that way. Yeah. Coming to a place of acceptance is something that is going to require mindfulness and continual practice. If you haven't or aren't used to accepting things and letting go and having knowing things are what they are and you only have so much influence over it, it's a conscious thing. You have to make a conscious awareness and be really self-reflective and observant of your own reactions and behaviors for you to be able to step into this place of acceptance, because it's going to need continual practice, because you're going to want to go back to whatever it is that you know, whatever is familiar over and over again. That's to be expected. But if you can be aware of it and say, oh, okay, wait a minute, I just had a really big, huge reaction and I went backwards and holy cow, I shouldn't have done that. Shoulda, woulda, coulda. You can't, you can't be hard on yourself. You have to have a lot of self-compassion. You kind of have to recognize, oh, I had the reaction. Let's pick this apart. Let's see why am I having such a big reaction to this? What was it about this particular thing that activated me? And how would I change my reaction, or would I react the same way next time? So it does take a lot of reflection. It does take a lot of patience. And most often it takes you learning that it is possible. You can come to this place of acceptance, but it does take conscious effort on your part over and over and over again, and kind of recognizing and correcting yourself as you go through this process. So those are just some of the ways you can really become one with acceptance and really step into it. And again, I want to drive home with you. This is so much of the work I'm doing with my clients, getting them to this place of acceptance. That is truly what Purposeful Insight is all about, is getting these women to this place where they're like, wait, what is within my control? What is not within my control? And it's truly a beautiful process to watch unfold. And as I work with clients and bring them to this place of acceptance one after the other, it never ceases to amaze me what is possible. Even when they didn't think way back at the beginning that they could ever get to a place where they could let things go, where they could allow things to be, where they could tap into their intuition, where they could, strengthen this acceptance muscle. Once they get there, it's like, whoa, I never thought I could get here. But that's all part of the journey. That's all part of the therapeutic journey. So I'm sure all of you are aware, and I had mentioned it on Monday, I am currently in the throes of Purposeful Insights fall enrollment. So if you are curious about what that might look like, if you're curious about whether or not that's the right fit for you, please send me a message, drop a comment, reach out to me in whatever way you see fit. We can certainly set up a time to have a discussion about that. But with that said, that is all for me today. I hope you guys have the most amazing day. And again, if you have any questions about acceptance or anything at all for that matter, or just maybe even topics you might like to see coming up in the next few lives, please let me know and I will do my best to accommodate. And with that, I hope you have a great day. We'll see you soon.